So I grew up with people telling me the statement, don't believe anything that you hear and only half of what you see. Reality is, for you guys that are seniors, 65 years or older, there is a lot coming at you all the time. A lot of times it's TV commercials, a lot of times it's news, a lot of times it's something coming in the mail. There's a lot of drama coming at you, and it's very easy for you to get overwhelmed and maybe get guided down the wrong avenue towards making a decision, whether it be Medicare, whether it be financial, whether it be friends, family, and people that really care. And that goes into the second thing. A lot of times, when you're 65 years and older, and honestly at my age and older, we get drug into drama that we don't want to be involved in. And it's that family member or that child or that friend that is always dragging us into the drama. And I'm going to go over with you today exactly how and the 3 steps to exit family and friend drama gracefully, but also to be aware of there is people out there that are trying to scam Medicare beneficiaries, and this is not about that, but I also just want to remind you, we're about making your life easy by making Medicare simple. If you do have questions and you're getting drugged in the wrong direction when it comes to Medicare, reach out to us, but stick around for just a second. I'm going to cover exactly what those 3 steps are to exit family and friend drama that you do not want to be drug into and involved in when it comes to you being 65 and older, and exactly what to do and what to say and how to exit out of bad situations. Stick around, I'll be back in just a moment. So, my name is Kelby Hightower, Medicare Hub, and we are talking about, you guys, seniors, being aware, and really what I say, don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see, and really the 3 steps to take to exit family and friend drama gracefully. So one of the things we don't want to appear to be is like we don't care, but a lot of times, guess what? We don't care. And friends and family will drag us into drama, and a lot of times we're like, how did I get drug into this? And how do I set up boundaries and perimeters to eliminate myself? And that's what I'm going to cover with you today. A couple of things I want to go over with you at first is don't believe everything you hear. The saying is a reminder to be skeptical and gather information before just forming an opinion. And here's really how to apply that. Here's a few bullet points that I like to remind myself of that are very important. 1, ask questions. When we start to really ask questions like, okay, can you explain to me a little bit more detail about that? And so this is what happened. And then you ask questions and you reflect back to them the answer. So what you're saying to me is this is what that person said and did. Exactly like what you just said. Is that correct? And we're going to ask questions. And I always like to say it goes from the surface and you're digging down into the soil of the situation. And you're really getting a real good bird's eye view of, okay, is this person just mad at this person, or did this really happen? By asking questions is a great way. The second way is consider the source. The reality is some of you guys are like me. There's people out there that just tell, they caught a fish this big, and all of a sudden when they come around the family and friends that they're around, the fish is this big. The source is so important when we're considering the source. That person just tells stories. They lie. They never tell the truth. We historically have seen this person lie. Guess what? When they're moving their mouth, they're probably lying. So just realizing, don't believe everything you hear, and if that person is projecting things on you, or they're gaslighting, or they're doing all these different things that can twist the narrative, and you're trying to figure out what is the real narrative, consider the source. Consider what they've done historically, and then know that if they're coming to you and they're saying, I'm telling you the honest God truth, that it's probably not the truth. It's probably their form of the truth, which isn't the truth, which is why we ask questions, to uncover, and to allow the source to communicate, to speak, but to get them to a point to say, hey, you know what, that doesn't really involve me. And another great thing that you can do, especially with kids and grandkids, a lot of times they'll come to the grandparent and they'll say, hey, what's going on? Or they'll come to you as the parent, and you may have 3 kids, and they'll say, hey, what's going on with Sally and Bob? I heard they were fighting the other day when they were over. What's going on? And the greatest response that I've learned to say is, you know what, that doesn't really involve me, or that's not my story to tell. It's not you don't want to be involved, but it's really not your story to tell. Go ask them. If you're inquiring and using me as a third party in the liaison, I'm not the liaison, I'm the mediator, and I would just say, you learning to be able to say, you know what, that's not my story to tell. Go ask them. And then I always say less words is best. I'm a verbal communicator. I verbalize things, and obviously it comes out of my mouth. But when I'm in situations, I want to think through what I'm going to say, what I'm going to ask in questions. And I realize sharing too much information, guess what? It's too much. So don't share too much. The other thing, seek multiple perspectives. You may hear something from your kids or from a grandkid or from a friend, and you may want to seek godly wisdom or some wisdom from a different perspective. Hey, this is just brought to my attention. If this was brought to your attention, what would you do with this? And they may say, that sounds fishy. I wouldn't get involved. Okay, well, what would you say to your child if they came to you with this? And get someone else's perspective on what to say. A lot of times it's just saying, hey, I'm really busy. I'm sorry you're going through that. That's something you're going to have to work out yourself. I've got too much on my plate right now to help you in that. Whatever that other perspective, sometimes can give you great sound wisdom on what to say. Verify information. You know, at the end of the day, there's this saying I say, the numbers never lie. And so in sports, if somebody says, I made 57% from the field goal range or from 3-point line, and well, guess what? You hit 3 out of 10 during the game. So the numbers don't lie. Your percentage is actually 30%, not 57%. So the numbers never lie. Well, guess what? If we verify information correctly, the information is usually accurate and the person telling the story may not be. So if possible, check the facts yourself. Are there witnesses, documents, or other evidence to verify what they've said to make sure if it's a valuable truth or if it's a half-truth or it's just a flat-out lie. So let's go into the top 5 signs of drama-inducing situations. One is a one-sided story. Description: when someone approaches you with a heavily slanted story, portraying themselves as the victim and another person as the villain. And, doesn't everybody love the saga of somebody's coming to you or coming to me and they're laying out this whole, they've been victimized and they're the villain, and this person's the villain, they're doing this to me, and then they just bring you more information, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, did a truck run over this person or what? So a friend calls upset, claiming their adult child never visits and doesn't care. And the reality is, I have family and friends I actually know that have their parents do this. And, it's their scapegoat to try to get somebody else to verify or to agree with their story or their narrative of being the victim. When in reality, if that's you and your child is coming to you, or you're going to your child and your child is saying this to you, either way, in the situation, if somebody's coming to you and they're trying to drag you into somebody else's drama, you could say, hey, when was the last time you sat down with your son or with your daughter and communicated your heart and feelings? Because it's your responsibility to communicate your heart and feelings to that person. It's not to come to me and share all that. Now, if you're coming for a different perspective, here's my perspective. And so that same thought I shared with you earlier, you can use that to be able to guide them to solving the resolution or solving the problem by going to that person in the point of contact. The next thing is emotional manipulation. A lot of times, this involves guilt trips, pressure tactics, or attempts to make you feel responsible for someone else's problems. And this is sad because guess what? Guess who does this a lot of times? Your kids, your adult kids that are 30, 40, 50 years old. They're coming to you. They're saying, well, you help Bobby through his situation and you paid Bobby's bills and you don't understand, I've lost my job and it wasn't my fault. Guess what? If you have a 40-something-year-old son that cannot keep a job and he's coming to you to financially prop him up and he's shifting the blame and he's creating this emotional manipulation with you, I'm going to tell you, it is Bobby's fault. And Bobby is playing the victim role instead of taking responsibility, changing some things in his life. And it may have been your fault. Maybe you catered. Maybe you enabled Bobby in his 20s and 30s. But you have to draw a line, sit down with Bobby and say, hey, moving forward, this is how it's going to be. I'm setting boundaries. I'm in retirement, 65 and older. I'm going to live my best life. I'm going to travel. What I'm not going to do is be able to take care of you. So you're going to have to be responsible for you. If you can't pay your bills, guess what? The lights go out. If you can't pay your water bill, guess what? The water turns off. You're going to have to figure that out. That is your responsibility. But not getting drug into emotional manipulation by our kids and friends. And a lot of times our friends are like, well, you never spend any time with me. And I always say it's adults acting like a child. When an adult is acting like a child, treat them like a child and create boundaries and give them choices. All right, well, let's set up time to get together. And I can do that on Thursday evening when we can do coffee, tea, dinner here at the house, your house. Or this time, well, it doesn't work. I've got all this other stuff going on. They're always making excuses. And somebody that's always making excuses but then emotionally manipulates you is a weight that'll drag you into a deep ocean. Cut loose, move on is what I would say. Ultimatums. Description would be healthy relationships don't involve forcing you to choose between people. An example would be a neighbor insists you to choose sides in their ongoing feud with another neighbor, threatening to end the friendship if you don't pick their side. And this is a great place to go, you know what? I'm sorry you're going through that, but y'all are going to have to work that out. I am not going to be involved in that. So if you come to me to talk to me about that, I'm going to say time out. I'm sorry you're going through that, but I'm going to reflect back or be a broken record, as I've talked about before, being a broken record or mirror back. And you can say, oh, so you're saying they said this to you, huh? How did that make you feel? It made you feel like that. Okay, well, that feeling you need to go park in front of them and talk and resolve it with them. Because all they're doing is just creating this web of deception, and especially if the other person's coming to you because you're the neutral party. You're never going to be a neutral party when you're involving yourself in somebody else's drama. Step out of it, create a boundary, say, hey guys, that's between you. I don't want to be involved, I'm sorry. I've got too much going on. And it's just taking my peace. My wife and I, through years of counseling, have learned if it's taking our peace, it's not worth being involved in. And sometimes the kids, sometimes they're manipulating, sometimes they're saying things, sometimes they're doing things. And we just say, hey, like, no more, I'm done. This is how it's going to be. This is your options, your choices. But this is what's not going to happen. You're not going to overstep this boundary. It's taking my peace. Now, obviously, we don't tell them you're taking my peace because that can cast some shame and some different things. But if it's taking my peace, no, we're not going to do it. Sorry. I'm an adult, responsible, I run a company, I've got things to do, you're a child, you're not going to take the peace of our home, here's how it's going to be. If the child's too unruly, we can pack them up and ship them down the road, I guess. Send them to a boarding school or off to military school or something like that, maybe to a different family member. But there is disruptions in the home sometimes and disruptions in your life that you can set boundaries around and say no more. Fourth thing is triangulation. This is when someone excludes others in the communication and vents about a third party to you, pulling you into their conflict. An example, a child calls you complaining about their siblings, hoping you'll take their side and intervene. Like family vacation, you're going on vacation. They want to go to Florida. The other kid wants to go to a different part of Florida. Both want to go to Florida, but want to go to the Gulf Coast. The other one wants to go to the Atlantic side. And so they call you, hey, you need to make Bobby realize the Atlantic side has the better ocean. And you say, guess what? I don't care. And if y'all keep this up, I'm going on my own vacation away from you guys because y'all are driving me crazy. Maybe you won't say that, but you need to step outside of that and not be triangulated into and pulled into somebody else's situation when it comes to that. And then the fifth thing, focus on the past. If the conversation constantly rehashes past grievances, it's likely unproductive drama. That person is just always, well, Sally did this to me. And then the next time you talk, I can't get over because Sally did this to me. And I always say that it's a ball and chain effect. They are chained to that offense, and they're never going to progress in relationships with anybody when they're chained to this offense. They have to forgive that person, disconnect the chain, release it, let it go, and then move on. And that type of person is a toxic person for you to be in a relationship with. They're going to guess what? They're going to circle you around, latch you into that chain, and pull you over into their own mess. And a lot of times it's just a sad situation when the person can't forgive and move on. It's the past, get over it, move on. We make mistakes, we hurt people, take responsibility for that and move on. Or go to that person and communicate and say, you've hurt me, this is what you've done. If they won't take responsibility and take ownership of it, guess what? You still forgive them and move on. That is their responsibility. It's not your responsibility to get involved into it. So, what's the 3 steps to exit drama gracefully? And here we go, real quick, guys. 1, set boundaries. We've talked about boundaries, and boundaries just like, here's where I stand, here's where you can step over or where you can't step over. And when they're stepping over in areas, you use all of these other ways that I've been explaining to you to reestablish what the boundaries are when it comes to your friends, family, kids, and everyone else. Second, focus on the solution. You have to have a solution to a problem. There's always a problem with any of us. There's always going to be a problem. You have to have a solution. Think through, my kids always create this problem around the New Year's or the holidays, and you think through your solution, and usually that involves a boundary. Third thing is emphasize your needs. Let them know you value the relationship, but you need to prioritize your own peace of mind, which goes back to what I said just a few minutes ago, is do not allow people to steal your peace. It's your peace, it's your place, it's your palace to live in, and if somebody's stepping in and creating chaos within your palace and stealing your peace, stop that. Set the boundary, make sure you focus on a solution, and then emphasize what your need is when it comes to what your peace is and what allows you to keep your peace. Guys, I hope this helps. Our next video is going to be stepping into something a little bit different. Stick around and I'll see you on the other side.